class, welcome to lesson 2 of reproduction. Alright, so this one's actually going to be a lot easier than the one before, but before we get that, let's make sure we do the things we need to. Go ahead and finish up that do now. We'll do our notes. Then you have a quick assignment of types of asexual reproduction. You're going to answer the summary questions under the discussion portion of Canvas, and then you will take a mastery. So before we get started, first, here's your EQs of the day. Go ahead and write it down on a scrap sheet of paper and a pencil. Number 1, what is not included in cell division? 2, what would happen if checkpoints aren't used in the cell cycle? And 3, how is asexual reproduction related to cancer? So first thing on here, again, we're only talking about asexual reproduction like we were in our last unit. We'll cover sexual reproduction in the next lesson. So first thing you need to understand is asexual reproduction is going to make exact copies of each other, right? Asexual requires only one parent because asexual means without sex. While sexual, right, you need sex. You need 2 people for sex, so sexual requires 2 parents. In sexual, you make babies that are different, right? Think about you and your siblings. Are you guys exactly the same? No. That's because you reproduce sexually. While asexual reproduction only requires one parent, so that means the babies are going to be exactly the same because they're just making clones of each other. So again, asexual reproduction is going to be like making clones. So making exact copies of yourself, have the exact same DNA. I'm sure some of y'all are aware this is Naruto, and this is a shadow clone jutsu. But it's up there because I guess this is a form of asexual reproduction, right? Created a living thing without sex. And he created these clones by himself. They're exactly like Naruto. Alright, so cell cycle. How cells undergo asexual reproduction. We talked about this in the previous unit, but you do need to memorize. Well, I guess not memorize, but just know basically this is what you have. We're not going to be taking tests on this other than the masteries. This is just, how it's done if you're curious. And this is actually how what every cell goes through to make more copies of itself. Next, we have cell cycle and cell division. Here's the difference. Cell cycle is going to be the whole thing, right? That includes interphase, cell division, all that. Interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. While cell division only includes mitosis and cytokinesis. If you notice that on here, that is the main difference between the two. Okay? So got to know the difference between the cell cycle versus cell division. So cell division includes PMAT, cytokinesis. Now, back to the cell cycle and its checkpoints. Where do cells check? So where do cells check if it's completed each phase properly and if it's ready to move on? So think about copying paper. Now here comes back to our EQ number 2. The checkpoint is basically where you check your work to see if it's okay to copy. Let's say I have a document I need to give you, and there's a typo on it. Do I want to fix that typo before I copy the paper or after I copy it? I'd want to check it before, right? Because then I have to fix about 60 copies of copied paper instead of just fixing one. So that's the same concept with cell cycle checkpoints. If the part of the cell isn't checked properly and not fixed, then you're going to have copies that are messed up. And that's actually how mutation happens. And if these checkpoints don't work, that could actually create a whole different organism, create a whole different virus, create a whole different disease. So asexual reproduction is important in terms of how diseases evolve and how it continues to affect us, right? We'll talk more about this later. But these checkpoints, if they're not there, then you have new diseases that could come about. Now, without checkpoints, like I said, they'll make new cells with missing DNA or organelles, or they'll never stop dividing. Now, here's the issue. Never stop dividing. That doesn't sound great, right? Or that sounds pretty good, because then I can keep cutting my skin and it keeps growing back. It doesn't stop. But here's the issue. What if you're not hurt, right? You don't need new cells. This is actually what causes cancer. Cancer is not caused by a virus or bacteria. Cancer is actually caused by your own body. and it's cells that don't have checkpoints, and they realize, okay, I got to keep dividing over and over and over again. Here's an example of bone cancer. Heads up, I'm going to blow this picture up. Be careful. You might see something you might not like, but this is what bone cancer looks like. If you notice here, the left side, the bone cells never stop growing, so, so this occurred, right? This person was in much pain and dying. They probably went blind here in this left eye because the bone cells probably were poking into that eye. The reason why cancer treatment hurts so much is because you're working to kill the cells that are cancerous. If you don't kill them, this is what happens, right? But as you do that, you're also killing other cells in your body that might not be dangerous. That's why some people go bald. That's why people feel sick, because they're literally taking poison to kill their cells so they can kill these harmful cells. All right, moving on. Types of asexual reproduction, just to make sure you know what these look like. Binary fission occurs in bacteria. Say binary fission. So that's basically when they divide into two equal parts, right? So if throughout the whole process they stay the same size, that's binary fission. And bacteria are prokaryotes. So anytime you see binary fission, think about, okay, prokaryotes do this. Budding, on the other hand, is when you have a little buddy growing out, right? Like the episode of SpongeBob, when SpongeBob made more little SpongeBobs in his body. Think about it like as a small buddy growing out of your body. And again, this is going to be a clone of itself. Next, you have regeneration, sporulation, and vegetative propagation. Regeneration. Parts of an animal undergo cell division to regrow tissue. Think about that episode of SpongeBob where Patrick, he cut off his arm, right? Well, Patrick regrew that arm, but then that arm became another Patrick. So this is a form of asexual reproduction. And here's some other examples where animals were cut and they just grew themselves back. Now, vegetative propagation. Let's look at sporulation. Sporulation is when they have little spores. That's really about it. Spores, they spread out and then they become new organisms. And vegetative propagation is basically you cut a piece of a plant, put in dirt, and boom, you just made a clone of that plant, right? So you can clone plants very easily. I'm just going to cut off a part of it, and then it's going to grow. Okay? That is the lesson for the day. I will go ahead and also post Quizlet flashcards for y'all to do, so that way you can practice more of these words, these terminology. And we are gonna, trust me, we are gonna get to the interesting part of how everything kind of relates to COVID-19 and how reproduction is important to understand. All right, have a great day.